Good morning. This is Dr. Matthew Dunn, host of The Future of Email. My guest today, my conference buddy, Tali Hasanov from WSI Digital. Tali, I'm so glad you made the time. Thanks for attending and stuff.
Oh, thank you very much for the invitation and good morning, everyone. Good morning, Matthew. Glad to be here.
Your Toronto area, if I recall right, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Nice, nice. So high level, what you do for clients. What's the elevator pitch for you?
Oh, a little bit of pitch. Yeah. Depends how long or short we're going. So basically, it is helping clients to build online presence, competition, and to be recognizable and as a brand, right? Because those days, it's really, really important to have solid reputation so people can trust you. It's extreme. I would say it's top of the list. So be doing everything from strategy, which is a crucial part, to implementation, from website to organic SEO, paid, email, obviously my favorite one, right? So yeah.
One of the reasons I was really intrigued to have you on the show is because you carve out a bigger slice of the digital ecosystem. I mean, obviously email a big piece of it, but you also help clients with things like SEO, right? So you've
That's
got a
right.
whiteboard over your shoulder there.
You're right. Yeah, I see your email. Correct. So, and we were just discussing a couple of days ago during I had presentation about holistic approach to marketing, to digital marketing. We can't afford anymore looking at each channel separately, right? If we're doing SEO for someone, we can't afford looking just for SEO, but because at the end, okay, you might get, a lot of traffic to your website, but then what? Guess what?
Yeah.
Maybe the traffic is not actually who you're looking for. It's not your ideal persona or something, and they don't convert. And once they logged on your website or landing page or wherever you want to bring them, what happens after? How you nurture them, what you do with them, and everything else, right? So an email, in my opinion, it's actually this tying point that it ties all together, all other channels, right? Because it's still the main communication channel, right?
Right. Especially once someone stuck up their hand and said, I want to have some sort of relationship, call it prospect, call it customer,
Mhm.
call it interested party. Yeah, that's the de facto back and forth most common channel, at least in the markets and countries that we're talking about. That job that you touched on of tying all of the digital pieces together strategically, that's a big job. That's a really big job. How do you help someone even start to make sense of all of their touch points and records and channels and so on?
Mhm. A great question. And this is really why it's important initially to actually have a discussion with the business to understand what do they do, what their goals, because you will be surprised. Sometimes I'm talking to businesses and I'm asking them questions they have no answer to, right? So
Good.
how can you invest or do any kind of marketing or attract any customers or prospects if you as a business leader or owner not 100% sure how it looks like, right? So this is a challenge. So first, I would say solid foundation is to really understand the goals, to understand what was done previously, if anything, and where you want to be, right? And then obviously to understand and build this strategy, kind of blueprint, and decide what tactics, what digital channels
Mm.
would help to get to the desired result, right? Otherwise, it's all waste of time, budget, and energy, right?
Right,
If you
right.
don't if you don't know the destination where you want to go, right? And I'm surprised sometimes people have no answers to certain questions they should have, right? So
Yeah, interesting. To be fair to businesses, I mean, we both work in this digital space day to day, but if you do something that's not that, if you make widgets or cars or something like that, um, it's a little overwhelming to to jump into the digital marketing side of the pond, it's still ridiculously technical. It's still incredibly detailed. The vendor world, those of us in the vendor world, are probably
Mhm.
guilty of saying that it's easy. It's not. Or that one system will solve all your problems. It won't. And I get this sense of sort of deer in the headlights reaction when I talk with friends and colleagues who are in a business but don't do this marketing shtick all day long. They're like, "Oh my God, why is it so hard?" I'm like, because it is. I don't know. Because it is. It just is. Reactions?
Mhm. Yeah. So, it again, good point. Everyone's supposed to do what they're supposed to do. So let's say if you're in a business, you're in construction space, right? Or you in anything manufacturing, or insurance brokerage, you're not supposed to know how to do marketing or how to set up, email SPF records,
Right.
because this is what we as a marketers do, right? So we take care of that. So I think people sometimes, try to cover and to do everything, and then they surprise the results are not there. But really, it should be everyone's supposed to do what they know the best how to do, right? Then when business owners trying to do marketing, obviously it's overwhelming because every day something new comes. If you're not constantly in this kind of space and
Yeah.
you endorse updates and speak to the professionals and people that around, and you're missing, and obviously it would be overwhelmed. Even for us, sometimes new technologies come in. Sometimes it takes time to understand how it works, right? But based on experience and knowledge, obviously it's easier for us. For someone who is running construction company, why would you like to do marketing? It's the same as I would go and do your job and pretend I can do this. I probably could. The question is how the quality, right? So this is the
Right. Right. Yeah. The specialization's the foundation of civilization in a way. Um, and construction's an interesting example because, will I hang a picture on the wall? Sure. Should I add a wall to the house? That's probably a bad idea. I'd probably be better served to call someone and say, "Hi, you know how to do this. Um, I'll go do the things I do. You do the things you do. We'll exchange money or whatever, and get it done." I think with the digital domain, as I mentioned earlier, I think vendors are a little guilty of saying that it's easier than it is. One, and two, the things that are tough and complicated are frequently very invisible. I mean, you mentioned SPF records, DKIM records, stuff like that. Like most people probably hit send on an email, but knowing that there's a whole bunch of plumbing that actually makes it work as a marketing channel, it's invisible to them, right? Why should they know it, arguably? And yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious if you've got any sort of comparison about the challenges that you help customers face in the world of web and SEO versus email. How are those the same? How are they different?
Yeah, and those are the challenges. They still the challenges, right? If we speak about email, then we don't have good engagement, and probably we send them not segmenting the list, not sending all the right stuff for right people, and eventually the email get into the spam box, and there is no engagement, and the story is long. So the same relates to SEO world or website. So as I mentioned, okay, we do an SEO. You get in a lot of traffic. But if to look at this channel
Right.
alone, you might get, 5, 10, 20,000 visits per month. The question is, what are those people doing the desired action you want them to do? And again, this is about segmentation, personalization. And based on HubSpot, and not just HubSpot, personalization is actually the top priority for businesses and marketers to implement, because it's now expected across the channels, right? More than 90% of consumers expect consistent interaction from a brand to receive consistent interaction across channels. So if I sign up, I went on the website and I signed for a newsletter, for example, right? To receive a newsletter, I'm receiving email communication from you. And then I'm going on your social media profiles. And then it could be I'm searching on Google, so organic results. So the expectancy that it would be same voice, consistent interaction from the brand, right? It's not miss or hit something, and it's still not for many businesses not relevant. And the big part also on personalization on the website. A lot of companies implemented personal content based on your user journey, why you actually got on this website to begin with, what your challenges or what solutions you're looking for, and then we display to you something. So if I'm looking to repair my roof, since we're speaking about construction, right, and I'm coming to your website, there is no point to show me, paving a driveway or something else, right? Because I have certain problem now. So yeah, it's the process is ongoing, but I think personalization is a big part of, and it's email. The beauty of email, it helps us to understand better, and I would say faster than other channels, what is user preferences, right?
Mm-hmm.
What users are looking for. Because even when we send, email communications, if it's ongoing, kind of could be weekly newsletter. This is the easiest to pick, with different topics. It's pretty quick to run report on any platform for the last few months to understand if some email communications are not performing well, from engagement, clicks, opens, and such, to those that are top three, maybe.
Right.
You can understand what are the subscribers looking for if the click through. And it's a great example. One of the clients we actually do in emails, we ran this report last week, and last 6 months we understand top three concerns. So the users looking for reviews, business behind the scenes, and the third one. So it's pretty quick to manipulate and pull the data to understand what is engagement and what people are concerned and they are reading about. So it's I think the fastest way to understand, right? Because SEO is try and run the content. First of all, it takes much longer to
Yeah.
run, right? Until you realize, oh, maybe it's not the right audience that got it, right? They're not converted the right way. Or paid search. Yeah, paid search could be fast enough to understand as well, but all the algorithms and everything still it takes about 3 months to adjust. And then you say, oh, okay, it's still not the audience you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
While in email, you can run some numbers report and understand, oh, people actually want to read about reviews, so they want to understand how the business works behind the scene. And this will help with what you see behind me, right? With SEO, how we time, next content for maybe next 2-3 months.
So, and you said something really important near the end there, a number of important things, but one of the ones I want to pull out about the experiment value of email. SEO changes take a lot of time to see because it's a big ecosystem, and frankly, it's under the control of a handful of vendors, and it's a black box. And paid ads, you get as you said, you get a feedback loop faster, but you pay for that. And I think one of the reasons for the continued utility value of email is it doesn't cost nearly as much to learn, right? Like, okay, I sent this to 1,000 people. What are they clicking on, as you said? Oh, look, that's actually what people are really interested in. And it wasn't it wasn't a long time or a high budget for that discovery. And that's a pretty remarkable thing. It's like
Mhm.
it's a bit of a built-in survey mechanism or feedback mechanism as well, if you will. Not always easy to gather the data. You got to plan right to get it, but at least it's possible without breaking the bank, so to speak. What involvement do you have in the world of marketing via text? I'm just curious.
So text is sometimes it's annoying, and it depends on the, I would say, business and the relationship with the customer,
Yeah.
when it makes sense and when it doesn't make sense. So
Okay.
let's say if you order online furniture, for example, and you want to get reminder about your delivery, probably text would
Probably
make
useful.
sense,
Yeah.
right?
Agreed. Yeah.
Because sometimes email might be not accessible. You have to, you notify the next 15 minutes the delivery is here. So you probably text would be a good fit in combination with email. But sometimes when you get those texts, you have no clue who is sending this, no any kind of, authority, some number sending you text. Oh, join us for this event. We are happy to see you there. Who are you?
Yeah. Who are?
I don't know. I don't know you. So I think businesses have to really be careful with what they do around email and text, because it's really easy to burn this trust and being annoying,
Yeah.
and they basically burn the bridges for the future, right? For future to build this trust with customers and establish a relationship, because it's all about relationship and trust those days, right? So I would recommend not to, if you have your platform can send text messages and you have the budget, but you have no really value to provide or sold behind, don't do that.
Yeah. I had a
It's annoying.
I had a podcast conversation with Scott Cohen, who I think you know, a couple of weeks ago. Well respected email marketer, and he was sharing that he's starting to learn the world of text in his new job, but he said he was a little shocked at the cost difference and at how carefully you have to manage that. And then 2-3 days later, after I talked with Scott, I got a text on my phone from this is we're having this conversation mid October 2022. I got a political solicitation text on my phone for a Senate candidate in a state where I don't live. And I counted up the characters, like 800 characters plus a picture. And I sent a snapshot to Scott and I said, what do you think it cost this guy's campaign to interrupt me, text me, and asked me for $5? And he said that was probably like a 12-15 cent cost for every single person he sent that long message and picture to. I'm thinking, wow, I don't know if that's gonna. I mean, it must pencil out he's doing it, but ouch, the math seems a little bit tough to me.
That's right. So, and we need to look again about strategic thinking behind. So clearly, nobody was thinking behind why to send to certain people. Maybe at least to, do some kind of geofencing if you're already doing some kind of campaign.
Right.
So, and we speak about it. This is similar to segmentation in email or personalization of the website or anything else we do, right? So this is again why personalization is so important and it's kind of on top of the list. Because for you, like to you, even if you probably move to this state, I don't know if you would remember the name of this person, maybe not, but it's lessen the possibility in the future for you to even thinking positively about this person. And this is what I mean. Like to burn the bridges, it's really easy. It really takes one to
Right.
text, and
Right.
then
Right.
you already know it and out of uh, but to build trust and relationship, it takes time and passion. So what I see, businesses are looking for shortcuts, and there is really no shortcut. That's important to understand. So in text, I find it's also more personal compared to email. If email, it's easy, you just click spam or you delete or whatever. On text, oh, they got my personal phone number,
And they got my
right?
attention. They
right?
interrupted.
They interrupted me and how did they get my phone number?
Yeah.
And so it's annoying unless there is a need and or value to provide. You have delivery, or you maybe have flights that you booked and you have checked in online. Then if flight is delayed, it
Yeah.
makes sense to get
Yeah.
text notification, right?
Yeah.
But for something like you brought an example, obviously it's not just annoying. It's just more than.
It's destructive, I think, is what you're saying. And if I were talking to the campaign manager for that candidate, I think I'd say, and I know geofencing of things like texting is actually trickier because phones move and phone numbers and area codes move with people. Now, okay, fine, leave that one aside. If he'd have asked me for some sort of interest and support before asking for dollars, I might not have been as ticked about the interruption, but the cold text from another state. I'm never moving to Wisconsin. Sorry, fact. Like cold text from candidate in Wisconsin. I'm like, what? I mean, it was professionally interesting because he spent 15 cents trying to get $5, but he did burn that bridge. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to donate to that. It's just not going to happen.
It is the same, like sometimes organizations think, oh, if you send more emails, volume, right?
Right.
It's better. It just sounds cool to say, oh, we sent 5 million emails per month. Oh, no, we sent 20 million
Yeah.
emails per month. The result, it's secondary here, right? Which should be actually the first, right? And
Yeah.
what value you provide, what are users actually doing what you want them to do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So this is another part. Same with text that you received. Nobody bothers to think or segment. They just send whatever they have budget, and they got some budget to burn, and that's what they're doing.
And I suspect in that case, in fact, I know in that case, there must have been a purchased list of contact numbers because I certainly didn't explicitly opt in. And based on the area, my area code had same phone number for a long time, is nowhere near Wisconsin. So they had to have done, and maybe it's one of the dirty little secrets of digital marketing channels, the sort of commoditization of that initial contact. Those of us in the legit side say, don't buy lists. But I'm guessing you run into clients all the time who say, I bought this list. What do I do with it? Ouch. Don't
Mhm.
use it is the answer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see also people trying to defense if it's B2B space, B2C, it's I mean completely B2B as well. Even those days, I just mentioned to you before we started the call that the email inbox is polluted with different every day, probably 20, 30 spam. We will do your best website. We are best in content. We will create your backlink. And they are getting to the inbox, many of them,
Yeah.
not to the spam folder. That's also interesting, right?
Yeah.
How the landscape changes, right? So it's just getting too noisy and too much spam around. It's same true for text as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that the check and balance of cost in the case of email, and obviously in text in the case of my political example, um, it hasn't really caught up with itself. If it's 1 in 1,000 makes it worth sending the spam, then the guy will send 1 million. That's a problem because 999,000 of us are in the "why are you bothering me" category. I've noticed the same thing. I've been a longtime LinkedIn member, and I'm on the fence these days about LinkedIn because I feel like I'm getting pecked to death by ducks when I log in on LinkedIn. 99% of it seems like it's irrelevant crap too. Hey, we'd love to do your mobile app development. Like, who said I have a mobile app? Leave me alone, right? And it's 60 seconds of your time to try to be polite to say, just shut up and don't bother me. Thanks. And it gets old. It gets tiring.
Yeah, I agree about LinkedIn. It gets a little bit noisy as well,
Noisy. Yeah.
and noisy. Yeah, I want to be in the software noisy, right? And it gets there as well, and email messages sometimes unrelated, or like we have program BA program or master program, come learn with that, and like maybe take a look at the profile first to understand people looking to learn or something.
Yeah.
And recruiters, oh my God, I love it. It just, you know what? They send from left to right emails and LinkedIn messages. They don't even bother to look at
They
they're
don't. They
doing
don't.
some search.
Yeah.
They don't even bother. If the person actually, a couple of times I took my time to reply because I was so mad for a recruiter offering me, something. And I'm like, maybe you will get better results if you take a look at the
Yeah.
actual
Yeah.
persons, what they're doing, right?
I got one of those. It was like, would you, you look like a great candidate for
Yeah.
our help desk. I'm like, I'm thinking maybe 30 years ago, but maybe not now. Like,
Yeah, it's horrible, horrible. One time also, I actually replied email to one recruiter because he actually did take time. It was one in all the years that I got all this spam, and he actually took his time and effort to check. And I replied to him, "Thank you for doing that, and good luck. And I appreciate that it wasn't. I'm just not looking for."
right, right,
Job opportunities, but I applied because he spent time. I saw he spent time to check and check different channels. But most of them, no, it's the same. We're speaking about mass, right? So they do some kind of search, and maybe out of 5,000 messages they sent, maybe one or two will reply, and then you go from there, right? So the same issue.
yeah, yeah. And I don't know how we put the brakes on that stuff. Bill Gates said many years ago, like '90s, he said that one of and he said, I know he can't change. I'm paraphrasing, but he said, if we'd have built in a fraction of a cent cost for every email sent, it might have changed how it evolved. Because when it's effectively free or close to free or feels close to free, it's not really a big cost to, 1,000, 10,000 is about the same thing. We get this channel overload. I've watched LinkedIn try and put some friction in place. It's hard to mass message people. That's friction. It takes time you can't get more than 50 people in a single message or something like that.
Mhm.
That's friction. They've kept some brakes on there, but obviously not completely successfully. And I'll bet you some of the newer channels, I'm thinking of TikTok, which I've never used, are going to be facing the same thing. You start getting some critical mass and reach, and unfortunately, it's likely to get abused if there's not cost, friction, and other obstacles in place to try and balance the value of the message and the value of the interruption out. Certainly happened.
Yeah, and that's right. And I think whatever is popular, it's getting abused, right? Everything new, and LinkedIn, people use it more for a professional
Yeah.
network and updates and everything else, right? So obviously, it's getting abused as well. Some people put, some emoji or icon their name, and they know if they get message including this emoji means automation is running, even though that LinkedIn
Yeah.
are not allowing any automations, but
But
there
people
is
work around it. Yeah. Actually, I changed my LinkedIn profile and I put the Dr. Matthew in the first name field intentionally because it's a surefire flag that someone's not pay. Oh, hey, hi, Dr. Matthew. Yeah, you screen scraped. We're done with this conversation, right? Automatic, automatic delete. A human being clearly did not do this with any thought, with any intention,
Mhm.
or something like that. Hey,
Better.
let's switch gears. I've got a completely lateral question to ask you. I happen to know, having had an opportunity to listen to you, that you're an amazing pianist. and you don't necessarily make a living playing piano now, but let me throw out a question for you. I'm a musician as well, not in your class, but I'm a musician as well. And I've got a sneaking hunch that music is an incredibly good background to have to deal with the complexity of digital domains. Any reaction to that?
Yeah, and thank you for compliment. I don't think I'm amazing anymore. It was, years ago. I still have piano. I still play sometimes, but it's far from amazing. So yeah, I actually there is a very interesting research was done, as well as there is say that music. This is the only thing that basically involve all brain cells to work, right? And students at school that if they learn music, any instrument, doesn't really matter which one, they are more successful than kids that don't. So that this is referring to music, and I have to agree with you because music is creative, at least in my opinion, right? It's certain creativity. It's not just you play whatever. It's a creative part of the words, right? So in digital, we have to be creative as well. And one dimension, it doesn't work, right? It's not some disciplines that being one dimension, nothing wrong, but it might work. In digital it simply won't, because so many parts and ingredients involved. You have to be flexible, you have to think fast, and you have to see big picture and come up with creative solutions. So I think it's important. Yeah.
Let me take it a step further, because I know, as I said, you're a pianist. Learning to read piano notation is very difficult, right? You've got multiple staffs saying different things. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant form of capture, because you really can get the entirety of a piece in the squiggles on the staff line. But learning to read it is really tricky. And I agree about the creative side of music, but there's also a unavoidable rigor and structure involved in getting to the point of being creative. It's like, kid, I know you want to be a great rock guitarist or concert pianist or something like that, but you're going to have to drill, and you're going to have to invest some blood and sweat and tears and the rigor side of it first to get good or competent or something like that. And what intrigues me about piano notation in the domain of the digital is that it's an amazing sequence and structure at the same time, right? You scan across the staff on a piano piece, and a pianist of your caliber, like, you're seeing the harmonic structure in this second, and also where it's headed in the course of multiple measures or recurrent themes going way ahead of the piece. You have to think of the whole, learn to think of the whole and the part at the same time. You have to go, oh, wait a minute, I'm in this key, so we're not, like, that's not going to be flat, that's not going to be sharp in this case. It's like, it's a bit like knowing what SPF and DKIM are, right?
Right, and it's a good point. Sometimes, and it's true for younger kids, but I find it sometimes true for adults as well. That everyone needs to understand that it takes work,
It
right?
takes work.
There is certain efforts. I remember 5, 6 hours a day. Can you imagine? Like
Bad.
kids outside going playing,
Yep.
and you sitting and practicing
Yep.
piano 5, 6 hours, right? So it does require certain discipline. It requires certainly a lot of efforts and desire to achieve something, right?
Yeah.
And similar with digital and technology nowadays, it after, and you know that, right? You've been in the space for so many years. So and when you speak about notes and everything, so with experience, you can take a look at a couple of things and say, okay, the problem is there, maybe.
Right.
Or we need to find solution. Maybe how about we try this, right? So you able immediately, probably with, I would say, 99% accuracy to say, okay, I most likely the problem's here, right? We need to do certain things in order to solve it, right? So it didn't come in the first day you started, right?
Right.
So it takes experience,
Practice.
trial and error, proactive, exactly. So it takes efforts and time, and yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like, I mean, back to our earlier conversation, construction guy would walk in and look at the wall I built and go, no, no, right? You don't know what you're doing because this is crooked. These are too far apart, yada, 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 yada. And I'm sure he or she would have had practice to do that. And I know you've got a thing for remodeling, so you probably know a lot more about construction than I do. It's just, because this is still a fairly fresh field, this being the digital domain and the marketing use of the digital domain, because it's new, because we're still inventing and changing a lot of things on the fly. Um,
Mhm.
I don't see shortcuts for grinding away and learning how these things work so that you know what to do with them next, or so that you can look and say, your problem is actually probably this. Why? Because they spend hundreds of hours learning how the stuff's put together and functions, so that I can go, that's actually the problem set right there. And that's the expertise that I'm sure your clients are paying you for. SEO must have some of that same, if you've done it enough, which basics to go through and check for, like, right out of the gate, so that you can work on the more strategic stuff afterwards.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, it's absolutely 100%, right? So with experience, we know what to check first, and then if it
Yeah.
fixed, then we're going further with
Yeah. Yeah.
strategy and everything else. But for sure, I don't see any kind of lack of opportunities to learn digital world those days, even though that again, this space gets noisy because sometimes, it, you face it as well, right? What people say they can do and different between the reality, it's not always the same. And
Yeah.
and here need to be a little bit careful. And I actually meet clients that sometimes they were burned previously, right? From different previous digital agencies or consultants, or
Hmm.
because it was something was promised, people disappear, and things falling apart. But it's like with any other industry, construction, right? Renovation. Some people postpone like years, 10 years renovation because they just don't want to go into this.
Right.
Again, those guys, construction guys, don't have good reputation. That's the reality. Taking money, disappear, not finish a job, and quality, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And then I think a solid professional in any field you'll end up coming back to, because they did what they said they were going to do, and hopefully more than that. Your clients, in your consulting and advisory stuff, U.S., Canada, broader markets than that.
Yeah, we work US, Canada. We have some actually, a couple of clients in Caribbean and in Israel as well.
Oh, in Israel as well. Interesting. Yeah, we've got a mutual friend in Israel. It's been interesting talking with him and learning what's the same and what's different in that market. He said it's so Android Gmail centric in Israel, in contrast with the U.S. And I'm speaking specifically about email here. That the assumption is you're sending to a Gmail inbox, and you can try to do different things than you might do in a U.S. or Canadian market, where it's a little more split between platforms. And
Yeah,
that
but still, Gmail still dominates in the market here in North America, right? It's about
the
everything.
inbox, but not the client, and that's a very important difference.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. I'll have another argument with my buddy Nick Einstein about AMP for email. We'll see where that one lands. What do you see? What do you see next for yourself and your company? Like the next couple of years, what's got you excited?
From which perspective?
Just
From
professional trajectory. Where do you want to take your business?
where I want to take my business. Oh, I have a vision board here. I'm not sure if you're about telling you the numbers and everything visually that I see.
Mhm.
But big picture, it's, as I mentioned, we work quite heavy with construction and manufacturing industries. And I find it's a great fit because those industries, they a little bit, behind
Yeah.
digital, right?
Yeah.
They sometimes you speak to people, they don't even barely can connect to Zoom or technology or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's great to be able to help them to be, to up top their presence and digital. Because if someone innovative just to help them with getting a little bit better, it's not as powerful as those people that used to be old school, and they you really need to be online those days. You can't afford
Yeah.
not to be presentable,
Yeah.
professional appearance, and as I mentioned in the beginning, across all the channels, right? So where your potential clients or prospects live, right? So you have to be presentable as a brand, and this is really, really important those days.
Yeah.
Because imagine if you're looking for a company those days, or on Google or any other search engine, and the company doesn't have a website, like what impression would have? What would you think? Oh, the website may be 15 years old and it looks, you know,
Yeah.
it's basic thing.
Yeah.
So it's really, really important. You can, and I know those industries sometimes they more on relationship based. It's true, but still, those days everyone is checking everyone online,
Well,
right?
especially post pandemic, right? We all got
Mhm.
shoved a decade ahead, and we're not going back. And it's funny. Back to music for a second. My older son's a music teacher, started his own studio, and he's got the digital side really dialed in, and it's already bringing him business because most of his competitors in the space, maybe they're old school, maybe this is too new for them or too hard for them, whatever else. But it's like, you don't even have a website. How do you expect to get business now?
Mhm.
I can't even email you. What the heck? No. So yeah, it's become basics. It's become blocking and tackling. And of course you've got it too.
Mhm.
And there are certainly industries, sounds like you're working in some of them, that are still
Right.
playing some catch up.
Yeah, they play in some catch ups, and I think it's also psychologically they a little bit they think that whatever they used to do, it's the way it
Yeah.
works, right?
Yeah.
But and you're absolutely right. The thing that happened with the pandemic, it's just pushed everything sooner, quicker. E-commerce grew. The growth of e-commerce was going, but now in last 2 3 years, it just jumped. But with that comes also amount of fraud and spam and everything else, right? So
Yeah.
everything comes with a price. Whatever is hot and popular gets a bit abused sometimes.
Yeah, and cybersecurity is going to be a growth field for a very, very, very long time, I predict.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
cool. Well, I know you would be an awesome guest. What a pleasure for us to actually get to chat one to one instead of waving as we go zooming past it at the odd con.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you very much for invite. It was fun chatting with you. Yeah.
So when someone's listening to this and they say, "Man, I need her help," where do you send them? Where does someone go to hunt you down and say, "Tali, I need your help"?
So I'm available on LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn.
I do have
Yep.
LinkedIn is quite easy to contact me. I have a website obviously, and I have an email.
At
Maybe. Uh,
it's wsidigitalpath.com, right?
that's right.
That's it. Well,
Great,
let's run.
great memory.
Yeah, that's it. Well, Tali, wonderful chat. Thank you for making the time and being a guest today.
Thank you, Matthew. It was pleasure.